Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is the same old G where we talk about all things life and wisdom related. And if that's something that sounds good to you and you want to come along on the journey, hit that like and subscribe button and stick around. Before I get into today's video, it's a sunny day here in the UK, one that is quite rare to have. I thought I'd take the opportunity today to go through a question that's been nagging me, shall I say, for a number of years. So the question that has been lingering in my mind is, and that has been concerning me or has been affecting me quite a lot recently, is the desire to want to move back home. So the question is, what do we do about that desire? How do we manage the feelings that come along with that desire? And if anybody out there can relate to it, which I'm sure there are many people out there who they coined the term as living in the diaspora. Now that was a term that I wasn't really familiar with. I didn't even know that that was a word. And you look up the definition of diaspora, something to do with like a spreading out of people across lands and countries or continents. I am part of the community that is the diaspora, and growing up here in the UK, it never really occurred to me that it would become the urge to go back home would be this strong. Now at this stage where I have a family of my own, 2 young boys, a wife. We're living here in the UK. We work here. My children are not yet at school, but one of them will be coming to that stage soon. And so we're starting to really get to the point where everything is geared up to them living here. So in this video, I want to go into some of the reasons, perhaps why I'm feeling the need or the desire to want to go back home, what those reasons are, and find out from people out there if there's anyone that's watching this that has had a similar experience. How did they deal with it? Did you find a way to maybe balance the two, of coming up with some sort of hybrid system of living in the West and returning home 6 months of the year in each place? How did you overcome that hurdle? Because for me personally, it's a feeling that has been very difficult to suppress. And the more I try to suppress it, the more it seems to rear its head again. That's what I want to get into today's video. So let's just get straight into it. So I think, it's been great living in the UK for the past 20 years. It's opened up so many opportunities. I've learned so much being over here, not only from a professional standpoint of how things run in a corporate environment and learning the way things should be done and to what standard. Here, things are very regimented and formal. Everything's quite formalized. And that certainly has its merits. So I've taken a lot of that on board, and not only that, but I feel like I've assimilated very well. I'm one of those people who you can almost drop me anywhere and I feel like I can adapt to that situation quite well. And I love being able to adapt to the culture in the UK, with all its quirks and its humor and everything that comes with it. And the culture, the seasons, with the weather and everything. Although more lately, the weather hasn't been one of its selling points for me personally, because I think that is a big factor in wanting to return home. Is the weather just it really gets you down sometimes. And I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but to have a sunny day like this, and actually It's been quite sunny for the last 2 weeks or week and a half. This is like the second week of really good weather. So the idioms of living in the UK and the culture, the experiences that it brings with you, that the living in the UK brings. You've got good connections to a lot of places in Europe. Being naturalized as a UK citizen opens up a lot of doors for you in terms of traveling, not only traveling, but maybe opportunities to work anywhere in the world and things like that. So it's been a great time living here. And as I move into transition into a different stage of life, I find myself being more drawn towards a slower pace of life, not so much just living to work. I still long for that slower pace of lifestyle that comes with moving back to a country that isn't as, shall I say, economically developed as the UK is. For all its, the positives of being here and being able to have an opportunity to work in a corporate lifestyle and all of that is great for a certain period of time in your life, I think, and I'm glad that I've experienced that, and I've started to drift more towards the definition of success isn't so much financial achievements, but more a mental well-being and happiness as well factors into that. And I think getting caught up in the rat race over here, it almost seems like there's no end in sight. And for me personally, I've sort of started to grow out of that and starting to lean towards something a bit slower. I touched on it, but the emotional well-being. For example, I can just remember my childhood being, and I know I'm going to hear from people saying, well, you were at that time when you were growing up, you weren't independent and you were still living with your parents, which is true. However, I still had an experience of what it was like to be in that country. Even though I wasn't working and independent at that time, I still have a connection with that way of life. It's not really going away, and it hasn't, it sort of hasn't just disappeared, given that I've lived here for over 2 decades. It doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't go away, that feeling and that connection, that bond that you have with your home country. There is just this general underlying sense of well-being, because I don't know where it comes from. Okay, so I thought I'd do the second part of this video out as I'm walking the dog. As I got interrupted before, I was in the house. My son woke up and he was having a nap. So I had to rush in there to quickly get him up. This is joys of parenting and parenthood. It doesn't seem like you ever get a spare moment other than when you're out walking the dog, and maybe when you're doing work at your job or whatever. So going back to what I was talking about this question of returning back to your home country after many years away from it, the adjustment of doing so would be a challenge. And some of the main reasons why this feeling has come up has just been because I'm in a different stage of life at this moment to where I was obviously a few years ago. I'm just going to pause it while this because this moan lower is going to make it hard for you to hear. Alright, so without wasting any time, I'm just going to go into the reasons. One of them, a sense of belonging. Jesus. As soon as I do, well, with any luck, I'll finish this video. So I'm just going to carry on with a few of the points that I have here. Emotional and mental well-being. So I think the big struggle I have is just the feelings of nostalgia and the homesickness that brings. So I believe that returning home for me will bring peace and happiness. There's also been a values and priorities shift, for me, like, and again, it's part of the evolution of changing as a human, as we grow, as our goals change, our, um, things that we want out of life changes, our lifestyle changes. And I'm at the point now where, success or financial stability here doesn't seem worth the sacrifice that it takes to get there. For instance, paying a long-term mortgage to maybe one day, in the hope of maybe one day owning your home, to me doesn't feel like it's worth the sacrifice, where compared to the ability to use that money and invest in my home country to build a house, not only would I be able to then own that home, but I would own the surrounding land, and that is something that's achievable in way less than 30 years. It can be done probably in 2 to 5 years. And so the prospect of having something tangible that I own and that is a real asset is, I think, much more achievable. And not only that, I think there's less barriers to entry for entrepreneurs. If there was something that you can take your experience from the West and take that over back to your home country with the idea of contributing and trying to develop it and bring your skills that you've gained living abroad, I think that would be beneficial, and is another factor that plays into this whole idea of wanting to move back. For me, values have changed, where I'm starting to value relationships, culture, and quality of life over material wealth. And some of the challenges that come with living abroad are dealing with bureaucracy. I don't tend to feel like I'm a perpetual foreigner, but I do feel like an outsider sometimes, and that's not necessarily because I'm from a different country. I think that's more to do with, again, what I said earlier, just my personality. I'm more introverted, if you will, than an extrovert. And I just, miss the simplicity of life back home. Things just are slower paced, more simple. There's not as much stress. Yeah, you get stress in other forms, such as inefficiencies in the system and, all sorts of other things that go on. But there is a real sense of a simple life that is quite attractive to me at this stage. And I think the main thing for me is feeling that my long-term happiness is rooted in my homeland. And sorry, I've got a spectator in the background. So yeah, I've just come to the realization that success in the West doesn't equate to personal happiness necessarily, at least for me. So I want to hear from people from you guys. Have you had a similar conflict or similar crossroads in your life where you've come to the realization that if you're from the diaspora or you're living in the diaspora and you get to a point where you want to move back? I mean, I see countless videos on YouTube of people who are doing this. I want to know what your experience has been. Has it been an easy thing to navigate? Do you ignore it completely and just carry on with your life as if that idea never happened? How do you get over that? How do you suppress that desire when it comes into your mind again? Because for me, it's a recurring thing. And I want to hear it from you in the comments, how you navigated this tricky time. Because it is a challenge, and I'd like to learn from other people's experiences, and I'll try and respond to as many comments as I get. So thank you again for watching, and hope you have a great day, rest of the week, wherever you are. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Right, so another point that I want to raise here is the lifestyle and pace of life. And I feel like in the West, it just feels, time goes by so quickly. It's astonishing. A day, it goes by so quickly, like a week feels like a day, a month feels like a week, and the years just seem to just melt away. So I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this as well, and it's funny because growing up in my home country, it felt like days used to just drag on and on. I mean, if you were thinking about something you had to do at the end of the month, it took forever for that day to finally come by. But as an adult, and I don't know if it's something to do with as you grow older or when you have more responsibilities, but you're just so busy all the time that days and weeks and months and years just fly by at a frightening rate. So there is a that's a big factor for me for wanting to go back, is just to really slow down that time, because time is precious and it's our most valuable resource. Nothing else there comes close to it. Time is the most valuable resource, and if I could slow that down by any means possible, then I'm all for it. So that's a big factor for me. And I'd like to also spend more time with my parents. They're here with me in the UK, which is, I'm fortunate that I have a lot of family members